go down in the bottom right side. It is going to be d.JonnyREcco showing us extremely strong play in that last game. And up in the top right side, it is going to be Major, who also showed us some good play, but his positioning in one of the major battles is exactly what cost him that game. I think when he was attacking that fourth base. But the next map is going to be Entombed Valley. And Apollo, what are your thoughts?
Entombed Valley, once again, as we mentioned before, is a macro-focused map. I think that's going to be really nice here for d.JonnyREcco. d.JonnyREcco has such a solid late game. I think through all the games I've seen d.JonnyREcco play in, is that he just deals with the attack that comes in mid-game to maybe try to punish a hive play, and then he gets to the late game, and that's exactly how he actually played against Naniwa. He kind of, ever Naniwa tried to go for this +3 pre-hive attack, d.JonnyREcco smiled, said, "No problem, kiddo," accepted it, and then just went into Broodlords and so on and dealt with the win. And that's exactly how he played there once again against Major. And maybe Major has to not try these attacks. Maybe he has to kind of fall back and go straight for the late game, get an earlier fourth base, go for Vikings and so on. But one thing for certain is on a map like this, anything is possible.
And also the drops that Major had initially just did not do that much damage. I mean, he tried to do them throughout the game, which is exactly what you have to do, but I feel like it may have been too little too late. d.JonnyREcco is going to be scouting cross maps because they, of course, get the benefit of a flying Overlord, which will be scouting that top right side in due time here. But pretty standard wall in here from Major. Hasn't gotten his gas or anything super crazy like that yet because the bunker is nowhere, or the barracks, excuse me, not quite done just yet. Expansion first here at d.JonnyREcco. And I don't know if you have any thoughts about how d.JonnyREcco opened in the last game, but I really like how he was mixing in a lot of attacking units before going crazy macro mode, and I'm kind of curious to see if he does that again here in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he very slowly took a third base, but a lot of units played it very defensively, yet still upgrading rapidly to get those upgrades ready for the later game. d.JonnyREcco, the way that he kind of plays it is he knows that a Terran player seems to be nothing but harassment with Hellion and Banshees. You know, every Terran player does it nowadays because every Zerg player takes a really fast third base. d.JonnyREcco just kind of takes that style and changes it and mixes his own little, special strategy with. And he says, well, if you do come at me, then it's going to be okay because I'm set up, I'm ready to accept it, and then I'll just go ahead, take my third base again. And I feel he's playing a really nice reactionary style of Zerg play.
And I think that's exactly what he's going to have to do versus a player such as Major. And it does look like the SCV scouts everything, sees what's going on there, but he also gets scouted by that flying Overlord, so he's not going to be able to stay there for too long. Only 2 Zerglings on the way. Sometimes you will see between 2 and 6 Zerglings for a Zerg player at this stage, but I feel like 2 Zerglings is the perfect number right now based on what he's going against, because he should know that, hey, it is going to be a super early expand. Yep, the Overlord right there can spot it from the right side, sees the timing of the command center there. He knows exactly what's going to be going on. Adding on 2 barracks here, which is pretty standard for Terran players to do this, but that does delay the gas just a little bit. And Apollo, what kind of openings can Major transition from?
This is actually really unique for Major to do it against a Zerg. I mean, this is actually a super standard build against Protoss, for example, when you want to have Marines out early, but why are you having bio units out early against a Zerg player? So with him having units out like this, means that he wants to play kind of an aggressive mid-game. So he can get out Stim early on, he can get out combat shields early on, very similar to how we saw Keen play a game against Vortex, where he went for that early Marine Hellion kind of push, and it did a lot of damage, and it can do well here on this map as well, especially because the destructible rocks in between the natural and third really do delay that third base. It's harder to defend it, and it could be a nice little push out from Major, which I think he's trying to achieve.
Gonna be adding on the factory right now, and do note that he hasn't done any add-ons on these barracks. He's most likely just gonna be keeping these Marines split up so it doesn't show his opponent exactly how many he has. Down goes the reactor finally. That is right by the factory where he can spot it with those Hellions here. Is slowly working on those rocks right there. One Overlord will get taken out here at the third base of our Zerg player d.JonnyREcco right here, but losing 1 Overlord, again, between 6 to 8 minute mark, that's exactly when you would expect to lose one. Not usually do you expect to lose one at your own third base, but d.JonnyREcco does have 2 Overlords over at the main base, which he can slowly float over, and those Marines actually moved at the absolute wrong time, as the Overlord will safely scoot on by there, and unfortunately for Major, that was a missed opportunity to potentially deny scouting.
And Stim is now being researched. With the next 100 gas, he could go for combat shield, but right now he's adding on a bunch of reactors, increasing that count And this is going to be a very strong attack. And if we don't see enough bailings out here by JonnyREcco, if we don't see enough defense out, it's going to be very difficult to stop. Major even moving Marines to the left-hand side where his third base is, because he knows that in these positions it is hard to scout, but JonnyREcco gets an overload in from the right-hand side, who sees everything now, and now the plan has been revealed, and immediately the Roach Warren comes down here, and I wouldn't be surprised if shortly he even added on a bailing nest just to make sure that this didn't do anything, and JonnyREcco with a perfect scout.
Yeah, and also not only the perfect scout, but the perfect response. He saw exactly what it was, analyzed what was going on, knows how to deal with it, and that's going to be double Evo Chamber as well as the Roach Warren. And again, that's just really unfortunate for Major. I mean, he had the Marines there. He sacrificed the frontal defense to go ahead and try and deal with that. And the second he moved it away was right when the Overlord was showing up, and that's how he got that scout in. Major's going to know exactly what happened there, and he's going to be really sad to realize that his Marine Marauder timing here may not be as strong as he would like. I mean, it's an interesting build, getting the factory, getting the Marine and Marauder, working on the upgrades as quickly as he can. I mean, he's getting stim and combat shield still, so he's got to be gearing up for that mid-game attack. But considering that JonnyREcco scouted it, he can put Spinecrawler on the high ground, can easily secure a third base right now. He's just going to have to make sure to get out enough roaches, and you know, he's been able to prepare as best he can for when this attack hits.
And there's the bailing nest coming down as well, just making sure he is clean against it. But one thing that Major's sacrificing really heavily here is upgrades. He doesn't have those double evolution chambers down, he doesn't have a third base, and if this attack doesn't do the right amount of damage, then he's miles behind in the game of rushing towards the later stages, of course. But right now, Major moving out, no bailing nest is ready, and as long as the Hellions are behind, Lings won't really do anything to this.
And he does have a lot more Lings on the way. 1-1, not quite done. You got to remember, this is 2 hatcheries, 1-1, and lair tech that is not invested in this army here. So Major is going to do damage. He's going to have to do it and do it quick. He may be able to deny the third. By the positioning of all these units, it looks like he might be able to do that. But with so many Lings on the field, the Queen's mixed in. If he can deal with the Hellions, he's going to be in pretty good shape. Might have to sacrifice his expansion, but he's got to decide to go for it. Nice concave here by Major, but I don't know if it's going to be an absolute enough here for Major to do the damage he needs to. Looks like the answer is yes, though, and should go at least for that third base, but he kind of wants to go for the kill, it looks like.
Yeah, he is, and he's shooting towards that natural now, and he's going to go right in the drawn line. If he hugs in between the minerals, how the hell a Ling's going to do anything here? 11 roaches on the way out, but Major stims so often that the units are low. He's picking off as much as possible, and if he can at the last minute snag that hatch as well, things are looking fantastic for him.
Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do that, though. The Queen's surviving a surprising amount of time. That Queen has 6 kills, the other Queen has 3 kills, and they just seemingly did not die. They did have that +1 armor there, but JonnyREcco took so little damage there. I'm actually amazed. I mean, he did lose only 3 workers. Units lost overall is a little bit behind there, but I feel like when you go for a Marine Marauder timing like that, it puts you in such an awkward position if you don't do damage. I mean, Marine Marauder is not a build you see very often in TVZ. He's not able to secure that third base. We're pushing 12 minutes right now, and he's got to take a bit of a risk by just lifting it off right now to secure it with very few units here. But I feel like that just was not enough.
No, it wasn't. He should have sniped either the third base or the natural, and I think he maybe got a bit too starry-eyed where he could have killed all the drones and the hatchery and didn't really do anything there. And, you know, he could have done a lot more, as you said. Even creep now on the third base of Major, delaying that further. But look at the upgrades. 2-2 for JonnyREcco, well, 1-1 is only just now passing the halfway line for Major. So things looking really, really nice for JonnyREcco. Infestation pick coming down. And once again, we'll be looking to go for that hive pretty fast again once Pathogen Glance is on its way.
And also, I mean, I can't help but say JonnyREcco, I feel is like playing the way that a lot of the strong Zergs are, where yes, he's ahead, but he's not also attacking up the ramp in any way, because that would be not necessarily suicide, but definitely risks losing a lot of units here. He's got to deny this attack right now. Baneling's rolling in. They're going to have to jump inside the medevac. Only 2 Marines make it alive, and that is one lonely ride back home. Those Marines are in the red, just furthering the lead now that JonnyREcco has. I mean, not only was he ahead anyways, but he's also evened up that units lost. And you got to remember, he had that third base earlier, so it's even more one-sided than it may appear. Double gas going to be going down. We see the hive tech at the 13-minute mark, but what's kind of the transition here for JonnyREcco right now?
He should be aiming for a 4th base any second now. The one thing that's kind of been neglected because of all the aggression is creep spread. And maybe that's the reason why he hasn't taken a 4th base yet, because it is a little bit more dangerous to protect it without creep. And he is moving out now to take it, but absolutely has to work on creep. Otherwise, attacks like this become undetectable. Of course, when he doesn't have the Xel'Naga tower, tank pushes become easier, and he can get position a lot easier too on JonnyREcco. So he needs to get working on that, which he is. But now the hive is on the way. Once again, we will see the Ultralisk Cavern out immediately. A handful of units at 1-1 has not begun 2-2, very surprisingly here, because he doesn't have enough gas yet. He's investing a lot into tanks and marauders, and if this attack gets sandwiched, then this could be just a 2-0 sweep.
And right now it is a lot of links. I mean, the positioning here for Major's looking pretty good, as JonnyREcco did not attack from multiple angles, getting a lot of siege tank shots off there. A total of about 15 kills on those tanks right now, and it does force the cancel there on that expansion. So that does mean that, you know, he's still unable to get that additional gas up. So he's forced to make more infestors here when maybe he would want to be going for Ultralisk, maybe going for that 3-3. But now there's the 3-3 starting up right now. But JonnyREcco, he's got a lot of minerals, but what he needs is the gas. Zerglings are only going to carry you so far here. And do you think it's wise for Major to back out after killing off that 4th?
Yeah, what really can he do more than killing the 4th base? If he tries to go for a 3rd, then he'll get fungled by then. He'll get surrounded on creep, and that was nice. Now he just pulls back and has a 4th base of his own on the way. He needs to kind of wait for his upgrades before he can take some solid engagements. But if he waits, then of course the Ultralisk will come out. So he already is kind of prepared for the Ultralisk. With 7 Marauders out, 2 more on the way, he's kind of predicting the Ultralisk Cavern will be first once again. And we did see the drop kind of denied in the south side, and Major does have 1 Marauder, 6 Marines, but JonnyREcco been so far excellent overlord spread and allowing anything in for cheap.
And the Ultralisk Cavern is indeed going to be finishing up here right about now, but as we mentioned before, he is relatively prepared for that as far as the unit composition that he does indeed have. So he's got a good read on what's going on. Siege tanks as well do additional damage versus the Ultras. So the Ultras aren't going to be a super easy just march through and win. But taking a look at the vision of the Terran player, he did spot the Ultralisk Cavern there on the right side of the main base. So he does know what's up. Knows that Ultras are going to be out in about 30 to 40 in-game seconds. Chitinous plating is on the way. But right now, upgrades are technically tied. They will be tied here momentarily, but I guess that 3-3 is rushing so close. So if JonnyREcco sees that there's an army in the center of the map, he is going to crush it, because he currently does have that 2-2 advantage. Working on a 5th base down here. So you did mention before on this map, if it goes to a macro game, it's going to be a long one, because they're actually expanding away from each other, not towards each other.
And it looks like Major is going to move down the left-hand side. Look at the lack of creep spread, unfortunately, there by JonnyREcco. That's not protecting his 4th base. Going to make this very easy for Major to push down, but JonnyREcco is getting ready for it. He knows it's coming and has a lot of Ultralisk, a lot of Banelings and Wings here. And he's going to go in before the tanks siege up.
Here he goes. He wants to get big hits on those. He's just going to have to leave the tanks for dead to do their thing. It does swing around to the right side. He is eventually going to get surrounded, though. And does look like the Marine Marauder going to try and focus down as many Ultras as he can. Fungal's going to be picking away this army. And this is just like a nightmare right here for Major to try and figure out how to deal with this. Because, yes, maybe he lowered the supplies. Yes, he's made the units lost tab look very similar. But this game is not very similar. He's currently down in expansion. The upgrades are going to be 3-3 here before Major even starts his 3 armor. Has just now started his 3 attack here. So now there's the full duration of these upgrades. That's 220 in-game seconds that JonnyREcco is going to have an upgrade advantage. He held on to that base. Worker count is at 80 to 83 SCVs, but thankfully for Major, he does have his own 5th base just now landing.
And with the big advantage in terms of army supply that JonnyREcco now holds, he absolutely needs to try to bring down this 4th base. And he doesn't know about the 5th base, which may actually go unscouted through the duration of this game. Major sending out 2 medivacs full of units on the left-hand side. Were spotted easily there by JonnyREcco, but no defenses yet set up. He has 3 Banelings protecting that base. JonnyREcco is going to make his march, though, towards this planetary fortress. Could be a disastrous move, though. Oh, the top left one, though, is not ready.
Yeah, it's not ready at all. The SCV's there, though, ready to die if there's that many units going to be running up there. Knows how he left the infestors behind. A fungal does get 1 big fungal. A second one goes down, which means that that base is cut off from reinforcements and might actually be able to take out a 2nd base here. A beautiful play by JonnyREcco, though. He is going to back out here, playing it so safe, like we've seen from him time and time again in this series already. Kills off the base, kills off every single worker. There is an attack down on the bottom left side. Focuses down the Banelings right away. 1 Baneling does a little bit of damage there, but could lose his own hatchery. But I feel like the damage has already been dealt. Units lost is starting to swing heavily into JonnyREcco's favor right now. And Major, I mean, he's still not able to kill off, he got one base, but unable to do the crucial damage of killing a second.
Yeah, but if you look at the blows traded there, I think that went a lot more in favor of Major, because at that stage of the game, Major isn't really meant to have a 5th base. So losing it, even though it is a loss, it's not as big as a loss as it may seem. If he'd lost his 4th base, then that's a bigger deal. But killing JonnyREcco's 4th base is pretty nice there. With 3-3 on the way for Major, the only thing really missing is preparation for Broodlords, which is going to be additional starports, ready to build those Vikings. That's the one thing he's missing at the moment. But apart from that, Major seems to be playing a really solid game so far.
Yeah, he has been able to retain a lot of his tanks and is even sieging them up in a defensive position here. I mean, you can see he never really wanted to hold on to that 5th base too desperately. Instead, he is just going to go ahead and defend that 4th base. He does have a delayed command center there. There we go, finally able to get an SCV back up there. But right now, I mean, JonnyREcco has just got to be careful to get the good engagement there. Don't run into the siege line. We've seen so many Zerg players knocked out of tournaments because they run into a defending player. So he either needs to get this army out of position or needs to engage it in the center. Right now, it looks like he's going to poke around with a couple of roaches, delay that expansion once again. Might even be able to force a cancel on it, which would be huge. But it does look like his creep spread's picking up at least a little bit in this game.
Wee pack of roaches at the top left now. We're going to bringing down that SCV and also the command center. That's a nice win for a small pack of units there. Nice little trade-off there by JonnyREcco. Doesn't really care about the roaches, but he brings down a command center building. Actually, look at this. On the right-hand side, or with the tanks, there's a borrowed Zergling, which is really massive to actually have that there. I don't know how it managed to survive, but that actually sees if Major unsieges and decides to push out, which will give JonnyREcco the heads up to move in, and Major would be like, what? How does he know I'm unsieged in a very, futile position?
Oh wow, that is a huge Zergling right there, and you can see JonnyREcco constantly selecting it, so he's looking at that Zergling and saying, okay, this is where his army's going. Burrowed Zerglings don't have the most vision, it's actually tiny, but he does know they are now out of position here. But at the same time, the drop has moved these units all the way back. JonnyREcco overreacting just a little bit to defend that, and Major moving out now. He says now's the time. He does have the +1 attack. He's also got the 3-3 finally done for his army. Broodlords are on the way, so if he can punish the Broodlord tech right now, he could be in pretty good shape here. But again, he's still going to be going up against a maxed out Zerg army, and Broodlords are already out. There are only 5, but that's because JonnyREcco has so many Ultralists right now.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of Lings too, but right now 3 starports are ready to build those Vikings, so that's nice. It looks like on the left-hand side, Major is clearing up borrowed Zerglings, so he can start to build the expansions. He has a lot of orbitals too in the background, so he's got a good income, a really solid income at the moment, but he does not have enough Vikings. He has 0 Vikings, if I'm not mistaken. 0 Vikings out so far, which means these Broodlords are going to be ultimately strong.
Ultimately strong indeed. Also, the fungal growth got to be strong. Able to grab a nice chunk of units there for basically free. Of course, that's just going to begin the production queue immediately. JonnyREcco needs to be careful running into that as Major is set up. He's ready to go. Nice defensive posture right there. He's saying, go ahead, run into the meat grinder, because that would have absolutely crushed through that army. Even with the Broodlords there, it would have been no problem, although that just freed up more supply for Broodlords here. 4 more are morphing on the way for JonnyREcco. Do note that he also morphed the weakened corruptors there to go ahead and get full benefit out of the full health corruptors. We do have high-sec auto-tracking. This is going to be helping out the planetaries being more of a defensive position right now. Sacrificing of SCVs. No, this is not a crazy misclick. He just needs to get out some extra supply here and try and chase down those investors. That's not going to really do all that much at this point. But we do have an attack over on the left side. Again, it becomes almost impossible for Major to defend versus this. But, I mean, both players seem content going to the late game. Yeah,
JonnyREcco, though, is kind of losing his income in the later stages. He's still only on 5 bases. He needs more at this stage, especially against Major, who's rapidly expanding in the top left. A drop does come down at the south side, which will get cleaned up by the infestors. Great borrow there by JonnyREcco to keep those alive, to keep their health remaining. But right now, the Viking count, the fleet is here. And we so far have 12 Vikings out with 4 more on the way. They do not have upgrades, but it doesn't matter. As long as he doesn't get clumped up and eats a fungal with the Vikings against what JonnyREcco has.
Yeah, this is an interesting position where JonnyREcco's army is bigger than normal Zerg, but that just means that if he messes up this attack, then it's going to be all over for Major. He's decided just to go for it, but ridiculous fungals there. You cannot keep your army that clumped up. Watch that supply plummet here. The siege tanks are not in position at all. They were attacking out of siege mode, and that was a ridiculous fungal. That's exactly what JonnyREcco was waiting for. He was just tempting Major to come out here, and unfortunately for Major, man, where are the Vikings at? There they are finally showing up, but they are engaging directly with Corruptors, which means the Broodlings are going to be doing some double-time damage on this army. Not to say it's over just yet for Major just yet, though, because those Vikings have finally broken through that Corruptor line, but it does look like he's going to hold on for now. Both players have got to be just so careful right now.
And JonnyREcco will be probably the more careful. Like I said, he doesn't have that much money in the bank, and he's now lost the Corruptors, when that means the Broodlords are revealed. And the Vikings are chasing tail, more infested Terrans trying to help them out, but the Broodlords will start to fall. And if they fall, look at how much money JonnyREcco has, only 200. Likewise does Major only have a little amount, but he does have mules. He does have mules to saturate the left-hand side bases, and JonnyREcco has to evacuate.
And I just can't believe JonnyREcco gets by with so few drones. He's only at 58. Usually you're going to be seeing 100 or so, maybe 90 from Zerg players, but did just make a big wave, I think, of 13 there to help kind of supplement that. But he's got to start saturating these bases. He needs another base potentially in the bottom left, although even the bases he have now are not saturated. Even that third base, not very saturated. Fourth base, not as saturated either. So he's got a lot of different places he can start sending these drones. So he's going to have to play more defensively here, which may tell Major, hey, it's time to go. We got to punish this. He does not have the economy to back that. That was a lot of stuff. I held it off easily, and now is going to be my time to shine. But his Vikings, do remember, are not upgraded, so busting through Corruptors is going to take quite some time. Especially with +2 carapace on the way too. It's going to make them really strong here. The Viking count though is pretty insane. It's at 16 so far. A lot of Marines on the ground supporting them too, and we will have a clash of armies once again, but 200 supply now for Major versus 163, and the late game economy management from JonnyREcco has been slacking a little bit. He is eating a lot of damage from these drops, and it looks like another drop is heading right that way, but JonnyREcco is going to slap that one down easily as he does pick that up with the Corruptors. About as one-sided as it can be, but what's also one-sided is his gas to minerals ratio, so should most likely grab some of those extra geysers as well. How's Major looking on the macro? Not too bad, relatively even there on both, as a lot of Terran players will begin hovering way too much gas just because of how their unit composition has turned out, but he has been able to dump a lot of that gas into his Vikings. Still no upgrades on the way. We do see 10 Corruptors on the way as well. Greater Spire going to be refinishing up here at the third base here for JonnyREcco, and does have the plus armor. Now working on the plus attack as well. And really, I think the main thing Major needs is going to be air upgrades here, because it is going to be a lot of Broodlords and a lot of Corruptors. More Broodlords are being morphed now, 4 more, and JonnyREcco really focusing heavily on this Broodlord, Corruptor, Infestor army. Major pushing through, scanning, get rid of some creep, and if he doesn't clump up again, he's in good position. And the last battle really should have gone a lot more in his favor, but he was clumped up, he ate a lot of fungals, he did not spread the arc, as that we do see so many times from Korean Terran players. But now, the money is heavily in favor of Major. He has a lot of money in the bank, can easily remake, and there are those upgrades you talked about. There's the ship weapons coming in to start to increase the value of these Vikings. And Major does have quite a few production facilities. I don't know if it's enough to remax out as quickly as he would need, but he also has a lot of command centers here. Looking good on energy. So, I mean, as you're mentioning, Paul, I think it's really just going to come down to the split, because right now, I mean, the multi-pronged drops are what you kind of need to do to deny some of these bases. But I mean, the Zerg player is going to be up to 7 bases, but guess what? So is Major. So it's more going to come down to remaxing out as quickly as you can and control in this upcoming battle. Ooh, and it looks like JonnyREcco is a bit out of position here. All the Terran army moves straight down the south, and if they spread out again, especially in that little, oh my god, he eats a massive fungal. Major eats another one as well, and the Corruptors are here to play. And all the Corruptors need to do is kill the Vikings, because then that means the Broodlords can deal with the rest. More fungals down. Do note, though, that the Greater Spire and Normal Spire may potentially go down on the south side right here. That Corruptor count is too damn high. It is currently at 20 right now, and that's after losing some. Is he going to be making more here? Yes, he did make more. He is about to lose that Spire, though, before the 3-3 finishes here. So he's only at 1 attack and 2 armor, but at the same time, the Vikings are currently sitting at 0-0, so that's going to be okay. And overall, it does look like, I mean, the units lost still favoring Terran, but may end up losing some of those investments. He does manage to burrow them. But this is definitely a ridiculous late game TVZ here, because it is 7 bases to 7.
I wonder if this is the time that Major would invest in Ravens. He's got so much gas banked up. The point defense drones would help out a bunch, and likewise so would the Hunter-Seeker missiles too, against all these clumped up Corruptors, all these clumped up Broodlords and Infestors. But right now, does he even have the time to think about what to do next? As he has to set up a defense, and it has to be a good one, otherwise.
And right now he is going to go ahead and move out with all the Corruptors. A lot of Broodlords going to be here as well, and huge bungles on this entire army. That's exactly what JonnyREcco needed. Here is their the Corruptors. Keep in mind there's no Thors at all this entire game to do splash damage to those Corruptors. They're just able to clean on through that, and right now JonnyREcco might actually be able to end the game here. That battle was so one-sided.
Yeah, he has such a great army, good upgrades as well, awesome fungals consistently throughout the game, and with 60 links on the way, JonnyREcco is looking to clean this up. He's got his expansions running in the bottom left, he has a lot of money, and JonnyREcco is looking at a 2-0 if he continues to hammer his way through, which indeed seems to be happening.
Yeah, especially, I mean, throwing in those fungals there at the end, that is going to be it for him. I can't imagine this in any way going back to Major. I mean, look at the money, look at the advantage. There's the GG Major, currently down 0.